Hello everyone, welcome to the Super Shenanigans Variety Hour. I'm your host, Angelo. There's
the other host, Liam. But, you guys might have noticed something if you're a long-time viewer of us. There's someone
if you're a
who's not
long-time
with us today.
Variety Hour or Shenanigans or...
Yep. I don't like the way that sounds.
Nope.
But that's okay.
Our Shenanigooners.
We'll workshop it. Yep, that's better.
I like that better. Our Shenanigoons.
Yep.
Anyway,
But,
we actually do have serious news here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, those of you who knew Shaman remembered him as a jolly, happy soul, and we didn't want to say this, but he was driving on the interstate. He had
125 miles per hour.
Oh yeah, it was insane. He had like 8 or 9 drinks that hour, and
All fireballs.
Just
shots
and
after shots.
And it was also coincidentally a school zone, and it just, oh my god.
By the time they turned off, flew like 3 red lights. I don't know how you do that and not see it, like, and then just wrapped around a telephone pole.
Must have been some black guys. You guys know Jersey. It's been cold out here, and it must have slipped on something, and at the speeds of Mach 2 hit a light pole, and oh my god, the security footage was brutal. He flew out that windshield like fucking Superman saving the day. And
I'm sorry, it's no laughing matter.
It really hurts to say, man. And oh god, dude, it was like the side of that school, like some painters spilled some nice fire truck red all over that wall, I'll tell you what. And so because of that,
I kind of wish that someone would finish the rest of the school. The red's kind of a nice color.
Probably kill another guy.
No, I don't think you need to do that, but
because of that, unfortunately, Shaman won't be joining us this week. They're reconstituting him in a hospital. He'll be back for the next episode, but
right now,
in the meantime, he's dead.
Yeah. Sorry, Shaman.
Hope
you get better.
I'm neutral on the subject.
While Shaman's recovering, we'll be talking about a very kind of recent big push within comics, Marvel Comics specifically. Their new Ultimate Universe, which let's make it clear, it's their new Ultimate Universe. They had one before. This is the second one. So let's kind of hop into that.
Well, do you have any history with the original Ultimate Universe? Did you read any of it?
I was an Ultimate Spider-Man guy, of course. I didn't read Ultimates. I read some Ultimate X-Men. And that was really it. So not much in terms of like real nitty-gritty, except maybe like the Ultimate Avengers movies and whatnot.
The ones that just kind of rip the aesthetic and just like kind of do the story.
Yeah, kind of do the story, but like characteristic wise, it's still kind of regular.
It's kind of like they take the plot of Ultimates but add the characterizations of 616.
Yeah, for those movies for sure.
Which kind of almost doesn't work because the plot doesn't happen unless the characters are not the 616 counterparts. But that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay. I for one,
the first graphic novel pick that I had ever picked up for myself, I went to a Books A Million with my father.
Oh yeah.
It was during the time of New 52 as well, so like I saw like Red Hood and the Outlaws. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I saw The Death of Spider-Man, and I went, the dude dies? So I had to pick it up. They killed him?
Spoiler alert, Spider-Man died.
I think I also picked up the Captain America Fallen Friend or whatever graphic novel where like after Civil War, after Captain America gets assassinated, that graphic novel, I picked that up too. So
you picked some goofy ass picks.
I had some really goofy pickups as a like 7th grader, maybe 6th.
That's legendary.
Something around there.
Okay, well, I am the original Ultimate Universe's biggest god defender.
Oh yes, you are.
And we're gonna get there eventually. There will be an original Ultimate Universe project, sometime eventually.
Sometime.
Probably not soon. There's a lot more of it than this universe.
Oh, way more. Yeah.
The original Ultimate Universe lasted 15 fucking years.
Yeah.
And I read all of it.
Oh yeah.
Every single issue in that continuity, I read it.
Oh.
With no exception. Everything.
You're a strong being.
I read everything. From Ultimate Spider-Man issue 1 to when Kitty Pryde decks Galactus in the fucking jaw.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah, that was sick.
I was there.
See, you know, for OG Ultimate Universe readers, or people that have read it in general, like, you know how much of a slug that could be for like half of the Ultimate U, if not like 60% of it.
Yeah, I have my own opinions on it, and I do agree that the quality goes up and down, and certainly goes down after a certain event.
Yeah.
For sure. Probably one of the biggest kneecaps in all of media to a franchise.
Yeah.
But I, all the same, have a lot of nostalgia and attachment for the original Ultimate Universe. When I originally read it, I was like probably like a sophomore in high school. I didn't feel like getting too much into 616 at the time. I liked the idea that it was kind of more of a newish continuity that's more self-contained and kind of took its own continuity a little more seriously. Yeah. And I enjoyed it a lot. I still think at the end of the day, I quite appreciate the Ultimate Universe for what it did. And I think that a lot of great characterizations and stories are kind of lost under some of the memes about the universe.
Like the you think this A stands for France or whatever, you know.
I am going to be honest too. This is going to be my only hot take about the original Ultimate Universe. In this video, I think that version of Captain America is actually a good take of the character. Just because he's not a normal take of the character, I think that it's a perfectly valid take to say, what if we took a guy from 1940s and played that shit like it would really go?
Yeah.
I think it's interesting.
I think that's an entirely fair point, for sure.
You just have to accept that it's not going to be the normal continuity of heroes, and once you don't expect that, you're good.
Yeah.
So how did you feel seeing that we're back?
Yeah, seeing that and that's what I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to be like back, you know, like that somehow the Maker was involved, of course, because the Maker had been re-involved in 616 since Donny Cates was doing stuff with him in Venom.
The only two survivors of this universe, by the way, as far as we're concerned, is the Maker and Miles Morales, who originally came from this universe. If you're a Miles Morales lover, he came from original Ultimate Universe. They're the only two guys who made it out of that shit, though.
Yeah. And, you know, I thought, okay, like, how is the Maker going to rebuild 1610? But it's such a different direction. Because it kind of got destroyed
in Secret Wars.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it got incursioned, and then, like, whatever Donny Cates was setting up at the end of his Venom, like, it seemed like the Maker had found 1610 or something or other. But
and kind of brought it back to some extent.
Exactly.
And I feel like they brought back Brian Hitch as the artist, and Brian Hitch is the Ultimates artist.
Yes.
For the first two volumes. Who I think, especially in Ultimates 2, does legendary work.
Yeah, he's really good.
And it felt very much like the marketing for this was, we're bringing back the Ultimate Universe, guys.
Yeah, because they showed off all the kind of classic-looking designs. The covers had these very, like, classic Giant Man. It was just the original Ultimates, yeah. So, like, I was like, oh, we're back at it. But then, as more stuff started to drop about, like, the details, like when they revealed Ultimate Spider-Man and stuff, no. It's not 1610. It's 6160, baby. We're flipping it. It's something new. It's something new.
I won't lie to you. I couldn't help myself but be disappointed.
I was a little bit too. I was like, oh, like Peter looks older now. Is this like the Maker reshaped some stuff in 1610 to kind of make himself like seem like this once again, you know, no matter what, set himself up as a god figure or whatever. But I thought the Rebellion angle would be like the 1610 guys going, oh, learn about 1610.
Oh, you messed up our timeline even more.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I thought I was going to lean into
that. And
that,
it also
but no,
makes sense because the Maker literally has beef with those versions of the characters.
Yeah.
The reason he is a villain is because of those versions of the characters.
Yeah.
And so I kind of felt like that's what they were going for, and I felt like they relied on that for the marketing a lot, and then it just wasn't true.
Yeah. And I find that kind of flip reverse really interesting. Especially
I couldn't help but be a little bitter about it.
Yeah, but I think it's a good time to kind of like talk about getting into Ultimate Invasion, and as that was coming out.
What did we get?
Yeah, we got a world that the Maker controls, as my initial thoughts were going into it, but a very different, like, parallel world to more so 616 in a lot of ways, where the Maker goes, what if I took all aspects of 616, all of the legacy, all of the heroism, and I took those moments away from people? Basically an entire story about people's futures being stolen from them, right? Their destinies. And how do we return that to these characters? And we get that through the view of very 616 Tony Stark feeling Howard Stark. You know, very incredibly Tony Starkish Howard Stark.
He wears the ultimate Iron Man armor, which goated design.
It looks so good when Brian Hitch draws it, I'm not gonna lie.
Goated design, so probably one of my favorites, especially when he draws it.
Yeah, but you know, Howard Stark's Iron Man in this world. There's a technocracy that's in charge of the Northern Union, aka the United States and Canada.
So, a big part of this is
a lot of world building.
That the world is being controlled by essentially they're called the Maker's Council, but for all intents and purposes, I just call them the Illuminati.
I also go as far to call them the Cabal, if we're gonna go. But they are a dark Illuminati, basically. If you're taking
I call them that especially because the Illuminati is in Ultimate Invasion, so that's why I just drew the comparison. But it starts with essentially the Illuminati, but evil.
Yeah, and it really starts with just a really interesting look into how 616 Illuminati views the Maker's escape from 616. How it's very purposeful how he draws them all together to kind of make this final farewell statement. Because no matter what, they can't stop him from escaping, but they promise to track him down.
And it'll take them quite a while to probably find him.
Which the Maker says, like, right now their best bet's like however many 100 years with some advancements in technology. But the really cool question that the Maker brings up before he goes off and makes the new Ultimate Universe is like asking Mr. Fantastic if he had a second chance after Secret Wars, you know, to go back and do that again, would he have deleted the Maker? You know, knowing what he knows now.
And he said, "Oh hell yeah!"
And Reed went, "Yeah, I think so," which then informs Ultimate Reed, the Maker, in his decision to go off and make this new universe, saying, "I'll keep that in mind," and thus leading to.
All right, I'm gonna torture you forever.
Yeah, literally, exactly. So
can I make one statement, especially about issue 1?
Yeah.
I think this book sucks at getting new readers into this.
It's dense. The first time I read it, I'm like,
this book sucks at getting new readers in.
I was reading that shit and my eyes started glazing over the more and more.
I don't think they even technically mention that the Maker is Ultimate Reed Richards. I don't think they even establish that. This book very much expects you to, at the very least, have read Secret Wars, if not some of the original Ultimate Universe.
Yeah. It's very much...
I think that's a very strange choice to start a new universe with such a very continuity-heavy beginning and not really provide an in, like a very easy in.
Hickman's great at his long-form storytelling, you know, really kind of doing a lot of establishing, but it felt like he probably wanted more than 4 issues to do this, and Marvel probably wasn't giving it to him, so it felt like a lot of kind of condensing, you know.
I will say this issue expands all the way throughout, and I will say just from a quality perspective, I think this is probably the weakest title out of this whole line.
Yeah.
I think that it's very dense. It's very high concept.
Yeah, very high concept and very high concept, not only in the sci-fi of it, but then also the moral quandaries of it. You know, Howard Stark plays this entire question of like, you know, he's the human in this dark Illuminati that's like, this shit's
This dude
fucked.
found out he's part of the Illuminati pretty much.
Yeah, he basically found out that he's part of the Illuminati.
Found out he was a member.
After being attacked at at the Maker's big, like, you know, coming out of his
Everybody
citadel,
celebrate
like
me.
Everyone celebrate me. I am the Maker. I am God. And then he gets attacked by a bunch of Ultimates clones from the far, far future.
The far future.
Insane,
by the way.
Which is insane. And Howard's just kind of like, wait, what's this? Oh, and everything just
everybody I work with is evil?
Yeah.
To the highest degree? Oh.
Any world wars that had been happening have just been orchestrated by the Maker this whole time. You know, like, everyone's actually allies. They're just playing roles in a greater scheme.
It's very 1984, as in, like, the nations intentionally cycle who gets to be the aggressor of the war. And they circle through, and, you know, humanity can't be in peace for too long, because then they'll, like, get restless, so they have to fight each other. And it's very much like that Orwellian, like, fascist control deep state shit.
Yeah. So that basically brings us all the way up to like issue 3-ish of Ultimate Invasion in terms of like the overall story, because, you know, the Maker took away everyone's powers. It's a world that he controls, and only very specific people have abilities. So his entire council,
who he knows he can control.
Yeah. So if we want to break down the entire council real quick, obviously the Maker's at the top. Then for the Eurasia country, it's the Rasputins, so it's Colossus and Magic, which I think is very fun. I like that.
And also Omega Red.
Yes, and Omega Red, yeah.
But he says nothing.
He says nothing this entire time. Then you have the Land of the Sun or whatever, which is Sunfire. Hinokuni, yep.
Sunfire, Viper, and Silver Samurai.
Yep. And that's like your Eastern Asia. And then Africa is Ra and Khonshu. Europe is...
together known as Moon Knight.
Yeah, together known as the Moon Knight.
Somehow.
Europe's controlled by French Captain Britain. And then I mentioned the technocracy in charge of America. That's Howard Stark and Obadiah Stane, which both kind of rock fun, like War Machine Iron Man armors within Ultimate Invasion. It's dope.
And again, Howard Stark is so caught up in his own inventions and stuff that he doesn't even realize he's part of a cabal.
Yep. And then South America is controlled by Emmanuel da Costa, who is Sunfire's father. Sunspots, sorry. And then the Hulk's in charge of Kunlun and all the heavenly cities and all that. So very interesting choice there, but we'll get into it later as we talk about all the other titles.
He, I think, is one of the most fun.
He's so fun. I really like the Hulk as a villain, and it feels very in line with Ultimate Hulk.
If I could just say my opinion now, I think he's probably the biggest success out of all of those as a character to me.
Yeah, because even then, like, I like the idea of the Rasputins in charge, but like they haven't really won me over as characters. Yeah, you know, exactly.
They haven't done shit
They haven't done
They've
anything.
been in Ultimate Wolverine, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and that's one issue in at time of this recording. So,
editor, we have flash all issues that are currently out at time of recording on screen.
On my mind. All right, wow,
we did it.
Thanks for all those images, editor Liam.
You're welcome. Yeah.
So, I mean, from there we get into the whole idea that the Maker is missing memory and wants Howard Stark to help him create a time travel device called the Immortus Engine because of these far future travelers. And the insinuation here is that Howard and or Tony is the person sending these things from the future.
Let's get to that a little later.
Yeah, the insinuation is set up here because the maker does say like, oh, I think the person sending them is closer than we think, and it like focuses on Howard's face, and I'm like, huh, okay. But then here we are introduced to Doom, which is
no doctor,
just
he
Doom.
didn't graduate college in this universe, I guess.
Yeah, and this universe is Reed Richards, because once again, remember, the maker comes from outside of this universe. He's controlling it now, so
he hates that guy.
And he hates that guy Reed, so hey.
He hates that guy more than all the other guys.
Yeah, and the entire point that I'm kind of feeling from the Ultimate Universe so far is that this is a very dark parallel, more so to 616 straight out, you know? Really trying to take away what makes these characters who they are.
This is the maker's ultimate revenge play.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Slash experiment for a perfect society, which he's been doing since his debut.
Yeah. And
fun fact, he destroyed all of Eastern Europe in the original Ultimate Universe.
Yeah, he did.
All of it.
It's all gone. But basically from this point on, Reed, Doom, and Howard are basically trying to build the Immortus engine, learning more about the Maker, how the Maker's been torturing Reed, and that Kang is the guy sending all the clones into the past. And there's a big punch 'em up. Maker's trapped in the Citadel.
Fights.
Yeah, everyone fights.
Howard Stark sacrifices himself to do a time freeze, and it gives everybody 2 years until he breaks out.
Yep, until the Maker eventually breaks out with Kang and, freeing themselves from the Citadel.
And then they get back to whatever they're going to do, and I have a feeling that they're probably both going to be a little pissed off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're probably both going to be a little pissed off.
They're going to be like, fuck! No, but,
let's both kill Howard.
And also, remember, the Citadel, time passes differently in there, so while it's 2 years for the outside world, for them it's probably like thousands of years.
So he's going to be pretty pissed.
They're going to be pretty pissed. Pretty crazy, too, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But...
Well, the Maker can't get that much crazier.
Yeah.
The Maker's kind of like... The Maker's like almost if the Batman Who Laughs was done correctly.
Yeah.
Is what I would say. He's insane.
I'd say so.
The thing that makes him, I think, work is that there was an entire, 100 or so issue series of Fantastic Four leading to it.
Yeah. I agree.
And it's not out of nowhere. And he's written better. But yeah, I will say I think this book's way too dense.
It's super dense. And this is the most amount of time that I feel like we're going to be talking about, the actual world building of the book that we're talking about.
Because that's all this shit's about.
That's literally all Ultimate Invasion is about. And then that leads into Ultimate Universe, where, now Tony Stark and Doom just are just gathering
we got
the
2
Ultimates.
years.
Yeah, they're like, oh, fuck, we got 2 years. Let's gather the Ultimates. Let's gather all of the shit that the Maker stole and give people the opportunity to be heroes again. And that just
I found
everything up.
This book so I read Ultimate Invasion and kind of went like, oh no, a little bit. Once we hit Ultimate Universe, I'd say the quality picks up tremendously. It's way more decompressed. It's way more focused on the characters.
Because those 4 issues feel so tight and condensed, and they feel huge. But then as soon as you read Ultimate Universe, you're like, oh, Reed and Doom and Tony really bounce off of each other well. There's a lot of good character work here. They're keeping things going.
We bring Thor into this, and Thor is just great.
Thor's awesome. We'll get to it when we talk Ultimates. We'll get to it. We'll get there. But in this, I quite like him. I quite like him in this, yes. And yeah, I mean, that just tees everything up. We get hints.
And he has the original Ultimate. Pretty much the only thing they're fucking carrying over from the original Ultimate Universe is a couple of character designs for real.
Yeah. Captain America as well. But
Captain America, Iron Man, Howard Stark, and Thor kind of look like their ultimate selves, which is fine by me because I quite like all of those designs. So.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, they find Thor, they free Thor.
Loki's in charge of Asgard.
Darn, that sure sucks. well, we're gonna leave now. Sif comes with because she's his jailer. And after they kind of talk to her for a bit, Reed and Tony, she kind of goes like, oh, I'm not gonna like officially say that I'm not gonna watch this guy and keep him in jail anymore, but I am going with you and doing whatever you say.
Yeah.
So
she's like, I'm doing my duty, but I'm also like not
totally not.
Yeah.
And I like Sif too in this.
Wish she had more to do generally though.
Huh?
I wish she had more to do generally though. Yeah.
Oh well, in the entire again when we get to it.
Yeah.
I found it was quite fun. They decide to just randomly shoot all the powers and like gear 6 months into the past.
Yep. After narrowly escaping a satellite beam blowing up Stark Tower.
Oh yeah. I forgot to mention they start this universe off right by orbital striking Aunt May.
Yeah, Aunt May and Norman Osborn get orbital striked.
by the Illuminati.
That's a terrible sentence.
But it's also 100%
but it's true.
What happened.
It's true, is what happened.
So they definitely start this universe off by orbital striking Aunt May.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and also because of that, the Ultimates are terrorists. Because
Illuminati...
They're spinning the label on them. I wonder what this universe is trying to say.
Yeah, right.
And then we get into, I would say, like, the actual books.
Meat and potatoes, starting with
this is
Spider-Man.
what the actual universe is gonna look like.
Yeah. And it literally tees you up perfectly at the end of Ultimate Universe, going like, hey, here's a little Spider-Man snippet, here's a little Black Panther snippet, and here's a little X-Men
right
snippet. And look at that.
I got Black Panther and X-Men somewhere, but I'm not getting up to find them.
Yeah, I have them somewhere as well, but I have all the single issues.
Unfortunately, Ultimates trade did not come out yet, so I had to read that shit off of Marvel, whatever it is.
Yeah, but, I mean, hey, off the rip, Hickman goes from Invasion and Ultimate Universe into Ultimate Spider-Man.
Into a significantly better book.
Into a significantly, like, more grounded book as well. Like, there's still a lot of the kind of natural world building that surrounds it with, like, the Kingpin's involvement, how he's kind of connected to Captain Britain and the whole
This is
Illuminati
almost the opposite book of Ultimate Invasion. It's very decompressed. It's very character-driven. And...
It's less...
get it out of the way right now. I quite love it.
Yeah, I love it too. I will also get that out of the way. But it's also like not talking and spewing all this information at you. Like it's naturally building it through conversation and setup. And like Mary Jane will mention something in like one issue and just then come back around and kind of talk about it again later.
World events are just like brought up.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the Stark Tower orbital strike is like shown from a civilian perspective. Obviously Aunt May got orbital striked, so Peter is there at the memorial mourning her, and in this universe Uncle Ben's alive and he's there too.
Yeah, and Uncle Ben...
So you get an introduction into Uncle Ben as a character, and also some more like character for this world and what it's like at a civilian level. Yeah. Which at this point we have only seen this universe from a very macro level.
Yes, and I quite like it too because it's building off of what you know of 616, but then doing these very smart like scalpel decision chess piece movements. Like instead of Aunt May being there and always being kind of loving and doting and like, you know, uplifting of Peter, Uncle Ben is kind of like very kind of tough love, very like trying to get him to be wise. You know, he's just a straight up like, you know, dad to Peter.
And it's not the same as Aunt May, but it's no less effective.
Exactly, and it's a good kind of comparison.
Especially from a perspective of, in this universe, Peter's a lot older and doesn't really need love and, like,
he needs
warmth and stuff. He needs, like, wisdom and guidance in how to take care of his kids and navigate an adult world.
Yeah, because he's
I think
married
Uncle
with
Ben
kids.
Is an inspired... married with children! Inspired choice to keep Uncle Ben alive.
Yes. And making him
so easily could have been like such a gimmick.
Yeah. And I
and
think
he's one of the best characters in the book.
he's so good, and I think him with J. Jonah Jameson as well is such an unexpected dynamic that I absolutely love. Both of them being newspaper men, I mean, that's really awesome. And it keeps Peter involved with like a lot of the familiar stuff, like photography, like that, the sense that he had this future, this destiny. Yeah, he had this future and this destiny.
Because Uncle Ben was there.
Yeah, and without the spider powers, now he's just kind of like photographer with kids. He just kind of stuck to it. He just does it. But it shows that there's these specific things that are constants for these characters that they just needed that extra push to become something spectacular.
He just needed a spider to bite him.
Yeah.
That's really all it takes. Someone just needs to just say so one of the things, and I will say this is technically not said in Ultimate Spider-Man, but I think it's very important to the character of Peter.
Yeah.
When they sent these powers out, out of the 5,000 that got sent out, 5 people said yes.
Yeah.
Including Peter.
Yeah.
He's one of the only people who, when provided with this new life of superheroism, he said, yeah.
And then
that sounds good.
Linking it back to Ultimate Invasion from what Tony then says to Peter within the book, Ultimate Spider-Man, is that Peter was on the top of the Maker's list as well. There's a list that we see, and it's like Bruce Banner, yada yada yada, Peter Parker,
he's like one of the top 10s.
He's like one of the top 10s
we gotta get him out of here.
Yeah, exactly. So Peter just saying yes immediately shows that no matter what, Peter Parker is a hero and has the capability to care so deeply about others that he will save lives.
Above most other Marvel characters, he needs one of the lightest pushes.
Yes.
You literally just gotta say, hey, do you want to be a superhero? And he'll just say, yeah, okay. Yeah. I think that's and not even just for glory and stuff. He's like, yeah, I think I want to help people.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly what I was getting at. Yeah. He's such good. This whole book just really helps build off of that, because the more and more that he gets into the superheroing thing, the more we see Harry Osborn and his side being this kind of reflection of Peter, slightly darker but still heroic, trying to be a heroic Green Goblin.
Inspired.
And it's such an inspired choice that it really makes their friendship feel like a natural development as they discover each other's identities just super quickly off the rip, just from Stark technology connecting. And
Harry Osborn owns Stark Tech at this point.
Yeah.
And this comes up in the same issue of the list, wasn't even on the list at all, which I will say, it doesn't make a lot of... To not be on the list at all, I think, is a little much, but
yeah.
I can understand maybe not being very high.
Well, he's typically a super villain, so maybe Maker was like, he'll join my side.
But I get the feeling that he catalogs and removed both sides in this universe. He didn't just take heroes' powers, he took most of the villains' powers away too.
That's true.
Muted my mic so I didn't destroy the audio.
Thank you.
I'm a hero.
You are a hero. But I do like the parallel paths that Peter and Harry are on, and how Peter's very helping people minded first. He doesn't really want to hurt anybody, yada yada. He very plays up that angle within the first few issues, while Harry's just super gun-ho blowing up.
He's very mission focused.
Yes, yeah. He's very
we gotta stop these guys.
We have to stop the Kingpin. We have to stop these guys. And I like Bullseye's inclusion as well as being Kingpin's bodyguard, and him being I felt reading the later stuff, I felt like it's insinuated that he took his eye because he's an agent of Hand, and therefore he took his eye because Nick Fury lost his eye. But also it could be seen as Captain Britain.
No idea.
But it could also be seen as Captain Britain losing his eye. But
yeah, they also don't talk about it at all. So
they don't talk about it at all. It's insinuated, and then later we see more Hand stuff with Nick Fury. But anyway, I just thought that was a cool future nod.
Yeah. I think their dynamic is the strongest part of this entire book.
Yeah.
And it is so interesting and fun and dynamic because of it's not conflictless, but it's still very fun, and they definitely feel like friends.
Yeah.
It's not like they like work together and they call each other friends, but they don't really like each other. Like they hit it off very quickly.
Yeah, like they go grab drinks. They like meet each other's wives, which Harry's wife is Gwen. Another inspired choice.
Fun choice.
Very fun choice. And like that entire angle of the story of Peter and Harry truly becoming friends is so heart-wrenching to me because I mean we all know potentially where it's gonna go.
I'm gonna be honest.
Either Harry
really
will
see it
die.
go either way.
I can see Harry dying or going evil, but I don't know if he'll stay good forever. Or the other way, maybe Peter will die. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think that's gonna happen.
No,
certainly not for a long time. Mm-mm. But I think it's entirely possible, and especially because I think this book is very hard at trying to subvert the easy expectation.
Yeah.
I think it's entirely plausible that Harry sticks around for a long time and struggles
with his,
but doesn't necessarily go down the villain path. I think it's entirely possible, and I think that's not knowing what happens with Harry Osborn, the Green Goblin.
Yeah,
is so fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting to see
that
how
shit
Spider-Man.
Hasn't happened.
Yeah,
that shit hasn't happened since I was like 8 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where you're like, what do you think is gonna happen with Harry Osborn? I don't know.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a very good point. And I think that's one of the strongest parts of this book is just the pure level of character writing here, how nuanced and balanced all the characters feel. And within the early issues, I understood people's complaints that like MJ doesn't say a lot, it's a little slow, whatever. But then as it kind of picks up, like you see the very natural repercussions coming about of Harry and Peter's events, and like Kingpin gets the Sinister Six, and
it's
like
also almost like a little kick-ass near the end.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
Like, I almost have a feeling of like Kick-Ass and whatever his name is in Kick-Ass 1. I know he's the motherfucker in the second one.
Yeah.
Like Red Mist or something like that. Like it almost feels like that dynamic of like a kid who's a lot more pure-hearted, and like a kid who's like a little like a rich kid who's really trying to be a superhero but like is struggling with it a lot more, and you're not like he might be a villain. It feels, and they're struggling with like real life consequences of like kind of initially idyllically being superheroes and being like being a superhero is so fun. And then the latest issue, they're being tortured by Kraven the Hunter for days in his basement. Yeah, and Peter's Stark Tech Picotech suit was given its own AI modeled off of him, and now it's like venoming out a little bit and pretending to be him at the Christmas party while he and Harry are captured. So there's a lot of great setup within this book. There's a lot of great like building to really climactic points with these characters. I'm excited to see where the Kraven stuff leads, because currently the last issue of Ultimate Spider-Man that was released was issue 12 at the time of this recording. As you saw on that screen that I put up a little while ago.
Yeah.
If I wasn't lazy.
If you weren't lazy.
I wasn't lazy.
But I love the fact that Ultimate Spider-Man still hits on everything that makes Spider-Man feel like Spider-Man with, obviously the message is responsibility, but I love how Harry is the one that gives Peter the line.
They completely retool it.
Yeah. With great power comes great responsibility, comes from Harry Osborn to Peter, but it's also an idea that this responsibility has really, been retooled, for sure.
Like, it's not like a message from, like, essentially, like, I know they're not, but father to son.
Yeah.
About like general responsibility and stuff like that. It's Harry being like, hey dude, I don't know if you've noticed, but the world's fucked and we're like one of the 8 guys who can do anything about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So like
it's from man to man instead of from father to son in that metaphorical sense, right? It's you have the power to do something, stand up and do what's right, like don't just sit down, like let's
and you're one of the only people who has that right now, and it might never happen again.
Exactly. So it's this call to arms rather than this life lesson being instilled.
But he still treats it like as a life lesson too, and is very responsible with it. And I don't know, I'm just gonna say it. I think that this is, every once in a while we get a generational Spider-Man run, and I think this is our current generational run.
This is it.
We're not going to get a book this good for this character for probably a really long time.
Hickman's really cooking, you know, and I think it's to Marvel's benefit if they're letting these creators really tell the stories that they want to tell with the Ultimate Universe. And I think that's very apparent with Dennis Camp and Ultimates.
Is that what we're doing next?
I think
I kind of think we should save Ultimates for last.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot to say with that one, so I think if we're going chronological order, let's just go Black Panther.
It's also okay. I was also gonna say I feel Ultimates is also the one that has the most to do with like the status quo of the verse.
Yeah.
So next is Black Panther.
I'd say so. Yeah.
TLDR, the family dynamic between Peter is awesome. Between Ben, his children, his wife Mary Jane, their relationships all with each other, with Harry, with Gwen. It's so like there's so many interpersonal relationships going on. It's a very character-driven book. Again, like Angelo said, it's almost like surgically done, and the decisions are so smart. I am confident in calling it probably the best title of the run or of the initiative. I feel pretty comfortable in saying that. Which is not to say that I don't really like the other ones, but this is like almost like no notes.
Yeah, I
think my only notes is you gotta cut those clickbait covers. You gotta cut that shit, dude.
Yeah, the covers are real. The covers are starting to piss me off. The black cat cover is crazy when she appears for one panel at the end of that issue. She's just kind of sitting there like, and then that's it.
I understand the reason that they did the Green Goblin kidnapping J. Jonah Jameson cover, because it had like something to do with the story. It didn't happen.
No, but it just kind of had that conflict of like, you know, Ben and Jonah's paper, trying to, you know, like dig into the Stark tech, who bought it, and them and Harry being like, oh, you're trying to figure out who the Green Goblin is. You're trying to fuck me. Well, I'm the Green Goblin.
Am I gonna have to kill you? And they're like, no.
They're like, no, we're after the Kingpin too, so like we should like help each other here.
No, we kind of fuck with it.
yeah, we kind of fuck with what you're doing, man.
And he's just like, oh, okay.
He's like, yeah.
He's like, I didn't want to have to do this, and they're like, you don't.
yeah. They're like, you don't have to, man. That's another thing. I think Ultimate Spider-Man is a pretty funny book as well, which is great. It helps lend itself to a little bit of that married with children like sitcom vibes.
But it's also like not very mean to like. I think it's very easy to be mean to the character of J. Jonah Jameson, but he's treated very respectfully. In this universe, he's very much like Uncle Ben had a good influence on it, and he's a lot less of a prickly character.
Yeah. He's still like obnoxious in his J. Jonah Jameson way, but he's not like
in a lot more of a charming manner instead of him being like dickish. He's more just like incredibly sarcastic.
Yeah.
And is able to definitely connect with people, and he has a great relationship with Peter's son, who he could tell is equally as like kind of not great at socializing.
Yeah.
And so that he kind of like starts to take like a mentorship over him. I think it's great. There's so many great interpersonal relationships. Best book of the entire initiative. No notes.
No notes.
Probably the one that I will continue to follow every month, the most likely. Not to say that I won't with the other ones, but I think I might wait with trades for the other ones. I don't know if I can.
Yeah, that's fair.
On Spider-Man.
But yeah, I agree. I really like Ultimate Spider-Man. Let's tackle the next one chronologically. Ultimate Black Panther, which I felt like it started strong and lost its footing.
And then like so petered out.
Yeah. Like it started really strong. I liked its world building. With everything like Wakanda's still kind of a hidden nation, but then my biggest problem with this book, let me just say it straight out, is that everything's so samey about it. Like it feels so similar to what I know about Wakanda, and it's just playing with what we know.
Probably the safest swing.
It's so safe, and I feel like it would have been way more interesting if you had a T'Challa who was a governor of this like nation state under Khonshu and Ra, and then was figuring out more about the secrets of vibranium and how that like his bloodline is connected to that. But it becomes a story
that I don't understand why in universe that isn't it, because the Maker kind of views Wakanda as not a threat, because Wakanda, when T'Challa isn't brought to the realization that it shouldn't be this way, is isolationist and just doesn't care to fuck with anything outside its borders.
That's true.
So he's just like, well, they're not gonna fuck with me, so why bother?
That's true. But I feel like...
But because of that, this feels like just a normal Black Panther book with a couple changes.
Yeah, like Killmonger and Storm are fighting against the Moon Knight reign, and T'Challa gets involved in that, and
and anti-vibranium
and the anti-vibranium green growth shit, whatever. Which is like, I like the idea of bringing in another element, but they don't do enough with that to really make it feel like a battle for resource.
So I'm gonna say this. This is how I feel about it.
I only got up to issue 7. So
I read up to current.
Okay.
And do you mind if I say what happens in current?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I'll get to it.
Because I know they're looking where I left off. They were looking for someone who was a mystic, who could help study.
They found them, but that's not the thing that pisses me off.
Okay.
So this book starts off incredible. I would say.
Yeah, I'd say
the art is really great. And we didn't talk
good.
about the art for the other two. Bryan Hitch is great, obviously.
The guy that drew the first couple of issues of Black Panther, Stefano. Yeah, Marco Cicchetto's great on Spider-Man. Phenomenal work.
That's how I take my notes. I just leave the book right there on my desk.
And then there's the second artist who does the dinner sequences, the more talky issues. They have the other artist that's not Cicchetto, and they do great work as well.
Messina.
Yes.
Dude, it's so great having it right here.
And then on Ultimate Black Panther, I think it's Stefano something or other.
That one's in my car. I can't look.
Yeah, but
I went to work with it.
He was the same artist that did the art for Ultimate Universe before Ultimate Spider-Man, and really great work. But I feel like my big issue here, because I loved the artwork in all the other books, but the issue with Ultimate Black Panther, just design-wise, is that Wakanda just looks like MCU Wakanda, and I don't fuck with that.
Oh yeah, totally. And
it's just MCU as shit.
Gray and boring.
The only interesting thing that they have is the Vodou Khan, who are the mystics that oversee Wakanda. I thought they were an interesting addition, I guess. I don't know how often they are in other Black Panther stuff.
They have yet to truly pay off. So what I'm going to say about this book is this book starts off really strong and has some really cool concepts, mainly being the classic conflict of T'Challa figuring out being an isolationist state while the entirety of Africa is suffering is not working out. And I think this actually is one of the better versions of that. I think it's pretty effective because of, unlike the other Cabal lords, Moon Knight isn't really that unethical.
Yeah.
All he's doing is saying, if you help me take over Wakanda, I'll take care of you in a way they won't. And it works because of course it does.
Yeah.
And it's all being being an isolationist country means no one wants to help us, and they don't like us very much.
Yeah.
And we're hoarding all of this wealth and privilege, and everyone is suffering around us.
And I think that's one of the best,
super effectively, because someone else swipes them all up, and T'Challa can't do anything but say, "Damn."
Yeah, that's why I think the first 6 issues is such a solid run for Ultimate Black Panther, because it's you start to feel it kind of petering out towards issue 6, but it's a good setup. It's literally everything you're saying. It's that idea of tradition and that isolationist Wakanda.
The message from Black Panther the movie.
It's message from Black Panther the movie, but done better because there's a world that could better support that foundation, and it's still slightly twisted enough to where it's Wakanda's actively. It's not the exact same, Wakanda's being invaded over time. People want vibranium, but it's more aggressive, and they're just using the other people around Wakanda against Wakanda because Wakanda has no friends.
And don't get me wrong, Moon Knight is the bad guy, and he doesn't actually care about these people.
No, yeah.
But, the rest of these guys are just straight up yeah, we will orbital strike you if you even say a negative thing about us.
Yeah,
these guys are just hey, work for me. And everyone's
yeah, I feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect there throughout the entire story with, Black Panther and our villains, where it's I never really feel like they ever truly come to head with each other, and then when they do step up on each other as Moon Knight.
So do you want to hear?
Oh yeah, the Moon Knight fight's lame as shit, isn't it?
So the Moon Knight fight kills my interest for this book, unironically.
It's like one or two pages.
The problem with this book is it has a really interesting setup, and then it just keeps edging you. It just keeps edging you.
Yeah.
It's going at a snail's pace. Not a lot is progressing. We're just further enforcing, like, oh man, Africa, the continent of Africa is turning on Wakanda. Everyone's following Moon Knight's message. And meanwhile, Storm and Killmonger are out looking for the Sorcerer Supreme, so they're literally just not even participating in the main plot anymore.
Yeah, they're just gone.
Vibranium, there's more to it than we think. And Vibranium has a will, and it's giving T'Challa dreams of gleefully killing Moon Knight.
Yeah.
And it's starting to scare him.
Yeah.
But he decides to go forward with it anyway, and it's pretty tense. And then they fight for like 2 pages. Black Panther annihilates him. Decides to definitely kill him. Like, doesn't even really think about it. It's just like, yeah, I'll kill him. And then Storm, Killmonger, and the Sorcerer Supreme show up and stop him and go, no, we could still save all you believe in. And it's so anticlimactic and so doesn't pay off on what they've been building off of. It just feels like nothing happened. It feels like T'Challa took a test, failed, and then wasn't allowed to fail by the story.
Yeah.
And I hate it.
Yeah, that's rough. Because I like the idea of having the Vibranium have this kind of dark entity, whatever, will of its own, trying to force T'Challa to
Moon Knight
go by
is
its
working
bidding.
with the opposite element, whatever the fuck it's called. It doesn't have a name.
It doesn't have a name yet. It's just the anti-Vibranium.
And so it's manipulating both Moon Knight and Black Panther into wanting to just murder the shit out of each other.
Yeah, they're kind of this kind of weird cosmic struggle between these two opposing elements. This mystic battle, I guess.
And they've been building it up so hard. And then it feels like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Because of Moon Knight showed up and said, yeah, you've been getting those bad dreams too? Well, I'm gonna win. And then T'Challa says, no, I'm gonna win. And then he does win. And all this time he's been like, man, I don't know how I feel about wanting to be a murderer. Like, I don't like that. That's not me. And then just goes, nah, I'm gonna kill him, I think.
And there's so much yapping within the issues, you know, like there's never enough fighting. Whenever there is a fight, it's like focused on for one page, but then it gets all caught up in its own like courtroom discussion, which I don't mind.
But
if it has payoff.
It has to pay off, and I would argue that the newest issue totally blew it. And really killed my interest in future issues.
Yeah.
And I feel like now what's gonna happen is they're gonna
I felt like
try
it was such
and,
a
like,
nothing.
like,
I feel like it was such a nothing discussion too, of being like, Okoye, you go with Killmonger to research yada yada, and then Storm goes, no, I'll go, and then T'Challa's like, okay.
Yeah, all right.
Like I felt like what you were building towards there could have been way more interesting, because like T'Challa has this whole thing of like a woman of light will be pregnant with his child. Yeah. You're setting up this destiny thing. Storm's right there. They have a relationship. You're kind of teeing up that like he finds her pretty. You fucking like.
But also it goes nowhere. So
and it goes
far.
And it goes nowhere.
I would argue
if you had kept
out
Storm,
of all of these books, the character work is probably the lightest. I think T'Challa's character work is pretty good until this most recent issue. It's very good. It's very compelling. But he's also the only character. He's the only character
because everyone else is kind of like a cardboard cutout for him to talk to.
Or they're a support system for T'Challa.
Yeah.
They're either the support system.
The best part about Ultimate Spider-Man.
Or they're the enemy.
Yeah, the best part about Ultimate Spider-Man is that everyone has their own goals, and everyone feels like their own person that's like building off of each other, you know? Everyone's helping each other reach their goals. While in Ultimate Black Panther, everyone's just supporting one funneling force into T'Challa.
And when they aren't, it's just Shuri going, man, I want to fight those guys, and T'Challa going, no, we can't. Until I say we can fight them for no good reason. Which, for the record, is what happens too. It's also
it happens like 3 times. Yeah.
It's also an ego play that he had to go fight Moon Knight. He could have just not.
He could have just not. Yeah.
I feel like I've also heard some interesting comparisons to Dune for this book.
Yes.
And I see it.
I see it as well.
But
not fully.
Like Dune is a lot more, I would say, like competently structured. And pays off a lot harder on its themes. Like, I would say, honestly, this latest issue really failed on the themes to me.
Yeah.
And T'Challa's character work and his struggle. Because it felt like he made a decision that was rash, and that felt normal because he's under a lot of pressure. And then he just decides in the moment, like, no, I think I'm okay with killing this guy.
Yeah.
And I don't think they do a good... maybe the interpretation I'm supposed to have is that the vibranium's finally, like, really taking over, but I don't feel like they did a great job portraying that if that's the case. And him being stopped and being told, no,
a lot of the
it's really that line, like, we can still save all you believe in.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
He threw it all away.
He threw it all away.
That was the choice.
Yeah.
That was the choice he made. Can we stick with it? No.
It feels like such a 70s, like, comic book ending to a story that doesn't really work with that. And also the fact that the aesthetics of the book, I don't think help lean into the fact that it's supposed to be a mystical story, because it is all gray and very MCU-y. And the fact that there's not a lot of mysticism shown throughout the...
so hot.
T'Challa's very hot. But,
what about that one page where he turns into a Sigma Black Panther in his dream? You remember that one? I screenshotted that.
Yeah, you did.
We'll put that one in. Put in the Sigma page editor.
But my biggest problem with it is kind of the aesthetic. I felt like the design work could have pushed it more. It could have lent more... I don't know. I felt like... Overall...
Also, I think his mouth is crowded. I'm sorry. His mouth looks too crowded.
Yeah, that's true.
I fuck with the rest of it, though.
I fuck with the rest of the design. I felt like the mouth is too crowded. I feel like you probably could have just removed the fangs, just left the mouth in, and have him, like, grimace and shit within, like, the shadow of it, because that's really good. That's a good silhouette.
I would have preferred that, or if it just stayed, like, a solid faceplate like they do most of the time, but I get it.
I get it. You want to change it up a little bit.
I like this book, but I feel like a lot of its potential is waning out.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of getting tired of it.
Unless there's a big spin around, but I think that's like asking a lot.
And it kind of is making me ask, like, why Ultimate Black Panther?
And that's the worst part about it. I wanted to be into every single one of these books because, like, I wanted them to feel like they had a place within the story, because everything's building up to the 2-year Return of the Maker, you know. Some books lean a little less on that than others, but even then, everything's building up to that, you know.
I would say the only thing that this contributes to the wider Ultimate Universe as a whole is the fact that Moon Knight is the villain, and it tells us what's going on in Africa. But I'll be honest, there's not a lot about this story that needs to specifically be an Ultimate story. I don't think it engages with a lot of the Ultimate Universe's themes.
Correct.
Of like Deep State and stuff like that. It's more played like, because of T'Challa's really the only character in this universe who's not at a disadvantage, I would say, or like a heavy disadvantage.
Yeah.
His stakes are still... T'Challa's status quo is really goddamn similar.
And that, yeah. And then, I'd say we could kind of leave Black Panther with that. It's kind of like his status...
It just makes you ask, why did this one get picked? And not, like, that I don't like Black Panther.
I'm glad that they decided to go with Black... I'm glad that their direction was to go with Black Panther, but I felt like the landing was just not stuck.
I feel like they're not living up to as much of its potential, which is unfortunately, I think, a theme with most Black Panther media recently. Unfortunately. They just something happens. Just something happens. They run out of budget and have to do a PS1 cutscene CGI fight fuckfest at the end of the movie. This one, like, it ran out of steam. Like, I don't think the character work is great. Yeah. Especially with, like, dude, Storm? How do you have Storm in your book and not, like, and have her say, like, 4 lines?
Yeah, right? And that's my biggest problem, too, is, like, if you're setting up Storm to be with... Okay, well, we'll get off this real quick, but...
She talks to him, like, twice!
Like, dude, you have this whole, like, prophecy thing for T'Challa. You have this whole, like, idea that, like, oh, Shuri's like, oh, like, isn't Storm pretty and all that? And T'Challa's like, I hadn't noticed, you know, do all this kind of flirty whatever, like, backhanded stuff, but then she disappears for the entire other half of your run so far. It feels so wasted.
Killmonger finding the Sorcerer Supreme, which is a story element that has yet to pay off, so I can't really say too much about that, but not a lot of interesting character work happened for either of them during that leg of the journey where they were separated. And also, in universe, it took them like 4 months. So, that's great.
Yeah.
But, it be how it do.
It do how it be.
It do how it be. Just do better, please.
Yeah, we could go into Ultimate X-Men now. Written and drawn by Peach Momoko. I think that's a solid talent
Everyone
to
knows.
choose.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels really wonderful to me because it's such a divergence of what anyone would have expected. It's so kind of...
Do we want to get into that now?
What, in terms with Ultimate X-Men?
In terms of, Ultimate X-Men in terms of expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I expected going into it, going like, oh, if we're going to get an Ultimate X-Men, the Rasputins seem to be the mutants or the stuff in Asia. So I'm like, oh, okay, like, we'll do something up there. You know, like, we'll do something like maybe
Place
it's
Japan.
Yeah, it's Japan.
Place Japan.
Plays in Japan, follows Armor as our main character, and it's just a schoolgirl cast of X-Men characters.
I think we're moved. Yeah,
which is great.
Yeah,
but I felt like what I was expecting initially was like some sort of deep state thing, X-Men working with like the Rasputin, something or other, you know.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that idea. But this book is not what I expected at all, and it is both a good and a bad thing at the same exact time. Mm-hmm. I would say. So on one hand,
it sets up a lot
as a book.
Yeah.
As a book, I love this.
Yeah.
I really like the book.
I really enjoy the book.
I think it's super fun.
Yeah.
I like most of the characters. It feels very like almost like horror manga.
Yeah, a lot of Junji Ito kind of vibes in there. Especially with like the Shadow King stuff, the big eye in the sky, the weird swirly like shadow shapes. So a lot of cool stuff in there.
It's very fun and creepy, but cute at the same time. And
yes.
I find especially the three leads to be very like charming and enjoyable. And I again, like Armor, I think is a really fun, almost like angsty character. I'd say like who's like very much struggling with the fact that she's being put in the middle of all this shit. May is just like a joy to be around.
Yeah.
And Nico is just so weird.
Nico's a weirdo, but in the best way. I really enjoy just the odd nature of her character within the book. Just being super into the occult stuff and psychic stuff, and always carrying around a spy glass that ends up becoming her staff, which is awesome. That was a really cool scene. But
some people will say this isn't really an X-Men book. And I kind of agree up until the latest issue. That this shit has nothing to do with X-Men whatsoever, except for a couple characters being in there that are X-Men.
So,
which is both a good and a bad thing, because of on one hand, it's so creative and fun.
Yeah.
And goes in such a new direction, but also on the other hand, there are some people who are like, this doesn't scratch my X-Men itch. And you know what? That makes sense.
Yeah, because there's a lot of expectations when you go into X-Men, and there's a lot of times early on where I'm like, oh, like, what characters am I gonna see? You know, like within my head, I'm like, oh, like what interpretations of classic X-Men characters will we get? And then once I kind of got myself out of that headspace, I started to enjoy the plot way more because it's something so new with all these different characters you don't usually see.
And I would say it's in the newest issue, they brought it there.
Yes.
And now I'm like, yes, now it's an X-Men book.
Because
we turned it into an X-Men book naturally from where we started, and now I'm fully in.
Yeah, I'm
in.
Peach Momoko hit a lot of the same things that I liked about Hickman doing Ultimate Spider-Man, where there's a lot of good character work, a lot of this mystery being set up behind Armor's best friends like and then Shadow King's involvement there, and how
I'm gonna have to bleep that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. And then Shadow King's involvement there, and then the cult of the Children of the Atom, and as more mutant characters start getting involved, the more we start seeing the wider world of mutant kind within Japan, and how the master is just Mr. Sinister. Which I absolutely
like a total
love.
Weasel.
Yeah, like a total weasel of a Mr. Sinister, like big bugged out like eyes, like total like oh my god, punching bag of a character for Viper. Just telling him like, you're not doing your job. Like, what? Fix the situation. Yeah, we will fire you. Fix the situation, or else like you're fucked. And then he's like,
and you don't want to get fired by the Cabal, bro.
No,
no, you
don't. You don't.
You're probably gonna get just erased from the timeline if you get fired.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah, Mr.
I find this book so fun.
All the characters are great.
It's very creepy and horror and surreal. Armor is struggling a lot with number one, like socializing a little bit after this of her friend. I'm just gonna, I give up. We're just saying we don't get money off of this anyway.
Yeah.
Just don't block us. Where May's initial struggle isn't revealed immediately, but she has a lot of like daddy issues, and since her mom doesn't stick up for her whatsoever because of We Live in Place Japan.
Yeah.
She has to move out and like doesn't feel at home with her own family and feels cast out by them. Nico's weird.
Nico's whole thing is she's just weird and has like
so...
her grandmother was into weird magical stuff, and she's using her grandmother's book to study the children of the atom and whatnot.
And we have like other side characters, like we have Natsu and Mori.
Natsu's Cyclops.
Natsu is just like, what if Cyclops was a Japanese schoolgirl? Which makes me just think like, this is the one that makes me most go like, yeah, like the maker didn't do this. Like the maker, no he's like,
yeah, he didn't choose to make Cyclops a Japanese schoolgirl. This is just a byproduct.
Like, I know how to deal with this.
Yeah.
Scott Summers is now a Japanese
But the thing is, like,
schoolgirl.
the way she kind of carries herself too does feel like a female version of Scott. You know, like she's pretty serious, like has a lot of problems with the optic blast stuff, but seems like pretty sporty and athletic, and like has responsibility within like her friend group. You know,
very autistic, not able to socially interact whatsoever.
Yeah.
And there's a scene. Did you read all of X-Men?
Yes.
The scene with her blasting the shit out of her mom is like it's traumatic.
It's so heart-wrenching.
It's honestly probably like one of the best like Scott Summers power failure moments just ever.
Yeah.
Even though it's not Scott Summers, but hey guys, she's got one eye, it shoots red lasers.
And they call it the optic blast.
And Natsu is Japanese for summer. So her name is literally Summers, pretty much. Like, so. And that one's Mori is apparently a character too, but I'm gonna be honest. I
can't tell so far.
I thought Nico. So I googled it, and they are a character, but just like not popular at all, and they're not a mutant.
What, Nico?
No. Nico is a mutant, and Mori is also not a mutant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in 616.
Who's Mori supposed to be?
I gotta fucking Google it. But I would say that I think it's a cool reimagining of the cast.
Yeah.
I quite like it. It's very slice of life for a lot of it. The cult aspect is very creepy. I thought Nico, by the way, was supposed to be Psylocke until Psylocke showed up.
Psylocke showed up. Yeah.
Until Psylocke showed up.
Kanon. Whatever.
Yeah, Kanon. I don't think there's a W in this version.
Yeah, no, there's not Quainon.
Which I think is just like H. Momoko is actually Japanese, and Quainon is probably not a name.
Yeah.
So she probably just like corrected that.
Yeah. But Psylocke finds a corpse of the children of the atom, and it becomes the whole thing, and then that spins into where it becomes like feeling fully like X-Men, where we get all this children of the atom cult being outed as mutants, and like people being scared of mutants, saying they're freaks, being like, oh, they hurt us, yada yada yada. And it is for good reason, because it is kind of scary in this world.
So, in this world, it's not Professor X.
Yeah.
The X-Men are not being trained by someone who wants to coexist with them.
It feels
all
almost
of the mutants
more
are being absorbed by a group that wants mutant superiority.
Yeah. This book feels almost NYX/New Mutancy more so than X-Men.
Absolutely, as a big new. So, just quick update for people who follow the show. Remember how I said X-Men was my blind spot in the X-Men 97 episode? Certainly not anymore. I'm almost on Fall of the Mutants. I've read every single issue so far since that episode. I have not skipped jack shit. I read Secret Wars 2, goddammit.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
This feels very New Mutants to me in a good way. I love New Mutants. I think some surprises for me too is I didn't expect to kind of end up liking the Shadow King a little bit.
Yeah, he's almost like
sad.
He's
like,
he's a very pitiful
guy.
Yeah, a very pitiful guy. Just like really wants to be friends with Armor. Maybe a crush. More so.
But is also just a straight up evil asshole on accident and on purpose at the same time.
Yeah.
and kind of more, I would say more that he's an asshole, and then realizes kind of throughout their encounters and after what happens to him, and he starts to really take another evaluation of the children of the Atom, and he goes like, oh.
Yeah.
This kind of sucks.
Yeah. It's one of those where like he gets thrown into a coma after like a big like psychic fight, whatever. And then by the time he wakes up, he sees, which I thought it was Wolverine at first, but isn't.
Let us get there eventually. I have some shit to say about this, and we're gonna save it to the end.
Okay, but actually no, there's a lot of shit to say. You're right.
Specifically about Wolverine. It kind of pisses me off a little bit.
You're fucking right. No, you're right. I just realized. Fuck you. Yes. But anyway.
It kind of pisses me off.
What looks like Wolverine, they're using his blood to like
apparently
feed
Dakin,
into.
Who I've never heard of before.
It's apparently Dakin.
It's, okay.
It's apparently Wolverine's son. Wild.
Who is Japanese? So like, yeah, I guess, but I've also never heard of him, so I didn't make that connection, and I'm not even sure if it was necessarily authorial intent. Because I'm going to make a case right now.
I feel like
this is the other thing I don't love about Ultimate X-Men. It feels like she's just not getting brought into the same meetings as everybody else.
Yeah, because it feels like at a certain point there is a big shift where we start seeing more of Viper and stuff, and how she's more involved. Because I feel like Peach Momoko got tapped and was like, where's all the Sunfire stuff? And then she's like, what?
Or even just beyond that, like it literally almost the idea of mutants in this book compared to the rest of the books almost seem like incongruent. Like they almost seem like not to match up.
It seems like it seems like there's so much information gatekeeping in this universe that nobody knows exactly how the Rasputins have their power or whatever.
This universe are super vague because apparently they've existed for a while.
Especially since the Rasputins
protests.
Yes.
The Rasputins
and Sunfire
turned the Eurasian territory into essentially a mutant like concentration camp country.
Yeah. It's a little odd.
And then we also have the Ultimate X-Men mutants, which almost seem like science experiments.
Yes.
And almost not natural in a way. Almost mystical / scientifically artificial.
Like they're mutates rather than full-on mutants, you know, where they're being given this mutant blood. It's like Peach Momoko took aspects of original Ultimate Universe with the idea of like the Wolverine blood thing being used to make mutants, and then did that in her Ultimate X-Men, and then Marvel and the rest of the Ultimate Universe was like, wait,
did you not pay attention?
Did you?
In the meeting.
Either that, or like maybe something got lost in translation, or maybe you know there are just multiple avenues of which mutants can exist in this world, and they're yet to clarify that. We'll see.
I think that this book could totally exist in 616 and be fine.
I think
I'm gonna make that argument. I feel like this book doesn't really feel that tied together with Ultimate very well.
At least as of
which
right now,
doesn't
that's
necessarily
fair.
make it a bad thing. And I think they're doing better now that Viper's actually an active member of this plot.
Yeah, I think like from issues like 1 through 5-ish, like you can make the argument like this doesn't really feel like the rest of the Ultimate Universe, but then from that point on with more of the cult stuff and the more like Viper's involved and we see more of Mr.
But
Sinister.
I would even say until you see that Viper's involved with the cult, you could make the inference that the cult has nothing to do with anything.
That's true, yeah.
Like it isn't until like Viper even shows up that you can make the connection that the cult is working
That's
with.
true. Yeah, yeah. So
Like
I'd
it
say
kind
really
of feels like
by
something that could have sprung up because it feels very low key.
Yeah, so I really feel like by like issue 6 or 7, whenever Viper shows up, that's when you're like, oh, there's the rest of the connection.
And I feel like in a way that like the other, like there are varying levels I think to how well they show the status quo has shifted, and I think Ultimates does the best. Amazing Spider-Man does a really good job. I think Black Panther does okay, and I think Ultimate X-Men, the status quo,
it's like
doesn't feel ultimate.
Mm-hmm.
It feels unique, but it doesn't feel
very
ultimate.
Unique. Yeah, that's fair. I feel like in a lot of ways it doesn't really tie into a lot of the themes that any of the other books touch upon of like a stolen future or anything really, you know. I guess the cult can kind of lean into that, but like in the case of Armor and her friends, like their power is activated kind of naturally.
Like this is just like an alternate take on the X-Men and not an ultimate take on the X-Men.
Yeah. I think that's a fair criticism. That's a very fair criticism of it.
And I still really enjoy it, and it's probably my second favorite book.
I will get to my favorites. I think Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate X-Men are very much up there, though. They're top 3 for me. Easy.
I quite like Ultimate X-Men. I love the characters. I think it's whack that we have 2 Ultimate Storms now.
Well, Maystorm is not funny.
The same character.
Maystorm is funny because she was like designed and thrown into like the New Champions or like Marvel Sidekicks line of variant covers that Peach Momoko did with like a bunch of other artists, and then Peach Momoko just went, I'm just gonna use Maystorm and Ultimate X-Men now. Even though Marvel's now doing like a New Champions book, so it's like all these sidekicks were made and then Peach Momoko ran off with hers.
Yeah, like it almost feels to me like, like part of that meeting too. Like it feels like she didn't know that Black Panther was really gonna use Storm that much when she initially came up with the concepts, and she found out,
and then had to squeeze in.
And they had to acknowledge it
when she was on her phone.
Here's a video of Storm
on her phone.
I like that.
I like
Storm too.
Yeah, exactly.
And it feels like she just didn't know that Storm was gonna exist in this universe.
Yeah.
And again, I would argue once we with the Rasputins, and as we get into Ultimate Wolverine, like
that's that's fair. So let's move. So I think overall we could agree Ultimate X-Men's really good.
It's a very good book. I really enjoy it. I feel like it's not making the most out of the circumstances it's being brought into, but it's still a very high quality book. It just feels like it's very in its own lane.
Ultimates. I agree with everything you said on Ultimate X-Men, but building off of that into Ultimates, I feel like, and of course it has to because Tony Stark and Reed are so heavily involved, plays so well off of the new status quo of the universe, especially just jumping straight into it from Ultimate Universe into Ultimates #1. I mean, you're just setting up everything from the Captain America stuff to Hank Pym and the Wasps introduction, which I felt was very well handled.
Most of this book, as of now, is we gotta build a team.
Yeah. And right now the book's only on, as we put up earlier, only on issue 8.
7. 8?
Yeah.
I thought it was 7.
8.
Hold on, let me double check. I've read up to current. I know that for a fact. Yeah. But is that true?
Issue 8. It's Google time. It's Google time.
Oh yeah, the Guardians of the Galaxy issue.
Yep.
I almost forgot about it.
Yeah. I think overall though, this book has a lot to say, which I really like.
This book is wild, is how I'll describe it.
It's wild that it's being published by Marvel. In a lot of ways.
I think that there's like, similar to Ultimate X-Men, there's good and bad. Damn, that's crazy in it.
Yeah.
But when this book hits, it hits harder than any of the books.
Yes.
But also sometimes this book can get very mid depending on the issue.
Depending on the issue, and it also feels a little bloated depending on the issue because of how many characters we're playing around with and how the format of month to month, the format of each issue being a different month is also kind of like constricting how much we can do.
This a little.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that this team is too big.
I also think so.
I like this book a lot better when it was like 5 guys.
I really like the America Chavez issue 2. With everything with Captain America.
One of the best issues Marvel's ever put out ever. That it's like, that's the very best. Damn, that's crazy.
The issue 4 with the Doom Reed backstory with art by Phil Noto, that was really good. I really like that one. I like the structure of that one. But I felt
Ant-Man or Giant Man and the Wasp. He's not Ant-Man in this verse at all.
He's Giant Man, just straight up.
He's only Giant Man. I think that's a very well handled issue, specifically because of I think that they made the exact right choice with Ultimate Hank Pym. I think that is the exact best thing you can do with the character in this universe.
Yeah, he's debating whether or not he really has a position to be a hero. He read everything Tony had sent him and is like, oh, in 616 universe, I'm a fucking asshole. But in this universe, he had taken brain damage. Yeah. In this universe, he had taken brain damage, presumably from Nick Fury, I think, is what the insinuation is. Kind of part of Maker's... Yeah, it's part. Yeah, because part of the Maker's whole thing is like, you know, kneecapping the people that could be dangerous.
One thing I want to say this is, and I didn't bring this up earlier, but I meant to. You can tell who the Maker has beef with in this universe.
Yes.
So despite the fact that Spider-Man was very high priority, the Maker does not have beef with Spider-Man, and so gave him a pretty cushy status quo while not being a superhero.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really necessarily, and I would even say based off my memories of original Ultimate Universe, likes Spider-Man.
Yeah,
he quite likes Miles.
He appeared in Ultimate Invasion of Miles, being like, "Hey, I'm gonna make a new Ultimate Universe. You want to come with?"
He respects the shit out of Miles,
yeah.
And he quite respects the original Ultimate Peter Parker and his legacy because of non-controversial opinion at all. Ultimate Peter in the original universe was probably the most super of superheroes.
Yeah,
and so he has a great amount of respect for the guy, and so he's like, I can't let you be Spider-Man, but I'm not gonna screw you over. Same with he doesn't have beef with Black Panther. He kind of left him alone.
Yeah.
But characters like he doesn't like the Ultimates. He doesn't like Iron Man. He doesn't like Reed.
Yeah. Those characters get the most negatively
hates.
Influenced. Yeah. And you could tell that a lot within this book too. You know, I mean, issue 4, once again with Reed.
And I guess he hates mutants too.
I guess so.
I guess he's racist. I'll say this, in universe-wise, to be fair, there's not much you can do about mutants to stop them getting their powers.
That's true, yeah.
There's not much you can do about it.
But I think overall Ultimates is a great book when it has something to say really powerfully, and with its whole chest. I felt like the Hulk issue was a little weak, though. It felt a little weird.
I feel like it was fun, but...
I feel like Thor and Sif are two characters, and this is what I was going to mention earlier. Thor and Sif are two characters that are really kneecapped by the amount of people in this book because they have nothing to do.
To disappear.
They're just forced to disappear. They go off the Yggdrasil, they do whatever.
They literally have to Goku him because he's way more powerful than every other character.
Yeah.
In this universe, most of the heroes don't really know how to fight.
Yeah.
With the exception of the Human Torch Jim Hammond, Captain America, and Thor and Sif. And Thor, power level wise, is way stronger than those other guys, and so they have to Goku him and stab him in the heart almost immediately, and he has to go away and not participate in a lot of the missions.
And it doesn't kind of suck. It does suck. Because I wish he did.
I love Thor.
I love Thor. I wish he did so much more. But
I feel the bones for a great Thor story here, and it's not happening right now.
I feel like I saw Dennis Camp post on his Twitter not too long ago that he was reading some Walt Simonson Thor. And I'm like, okay, so this next arc after the Hulk stuff is just going to be a lot of Thor and Loki, which Loki's in charge of Asgard. I desperately need to see how they're going to handle that. But
this is, I think, one of the strongest setups.
Yeah,
is he suffered one of the bigger falls from grace? Is he was a god and he had it all stripped away, and I think that they set it up really great, that he didn't realize that the sorrow and embarrassment he felt was actually righteous anger at the future that he deserved being stolen from him, and he's righteously angry.
Yeah, and we need to see that Thor. We need to see him take back his... Yeah, and then he disappears. But, I mean, besides that...
And Jim Hammond comes out of nowhere, bro. He gets introduced...
Gets in a free comic book day issue.
Where the fuck he comes from.
Yeah, free comic book day issue.
Jim Hammond is... Tony goes, all right, we got all the Ultimates, except Thor and Sif. And then Human Torch was there, and I literally went who invited this guy?
Yeah, and
what?
I really enjoyed everything that the Ultimates had to say. I really enjoyed, at least story and pacing wise, I feel like enough is getting done.
Biting.
This one's the most biting, and then this one's also kind of, I feel like, giving me a lot of payoff for stuff. In terms of not only how much these characters have impacted the world around them, but also how much the world is responding to them, and how much they kind of take their time here and there. Issue 7 is a great issue because it's the aftermath of the Hulk fight, and it's just super down to earth. Everyone's kind of recovering.
Yeah. And I do love that because I think my biggest criticism is because of this one has to be high concept and has to be every month.
Yeah.
Takes place in a different month. They have to leave a lot of character shit by the wayside, and I think it sucks because I love almost all of these guys.
Yeah, and the glimpses that we get of all of them are like super fun. Even like the little bit that we get of Jim Hammond in issue 7, I'm like, oh, okay, I do like this guy. He's pretty cool.
What if Steve Rogers woke up, but another guy woke up with him pretty shortly after?
Yeah, and now
like,
he has
what if they weren't alone?
What if they weren't alone? What if they were friends?
And how do they both adapt?
Mm-hmm.
Steve has a harder time adapting than Jim does. Jim honestly kind of slips pretty quick.
Well, Jim's an android, so they just upload the entire internet into his brain, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I kind of get it now."
He's like, "All right, this is."
I just needed a software update.
And Steve is like struggling, and I think that's
really cool.
We said this a lot during Spider-Man. Inspired choice. I think that's an inspired choice, and I think it's really cool to use Jim Hammond, who hasn't really been used outside of going, "Yeah, we know who the other Human Torch is," since like the 40s.
Yeah, and the fact that there's no Fantastic Four in this universe, since Maker stripped all that away from Reed, it allows us to see this other Human Torch really kind of, enjoy Jim Hammond as a character, because he is a cool character.
For those who don't know, the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four is not the first Fantastic Four. He's not the first Human Torch in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
There was a Human Torch who fought alongside Captain America, and he was a robot man.
Yeah, he was a robot man that shot fire, Human Torch, but also he canonically killed Hitler.
I think She-Hulk is good, but I'm gonna be completely 100% honest with you. I think they're fumbling her.
Yeah, her motivations are a little.
I think her initial issue was great
for her.
And being like, no, we're not asking for revenge. We're asking for this to get fixed. Bruce Banner conducted incredibly unethical radiation experiments on an island of indigenous people. Can you tell this book's a little bit more critical of the world status quo? And it completely destroys them. Just like they all horribly mutate. She-Hulk is like the only one who doesn't get screwed by this lottery.
Yeah, she just becomes
mutations.
She just becomes the giant gray She-Hulk from like all new, all different Marvel, basically. Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting, and I think very powerful to be like, for them it's they don't want to have anything to do with this. They just want things to be as okay as they can be.
Yeah.
And then they forget about that immediately.
Yeah, because as soon as She-Hulk is like trapped on her island, or trapped in space on the fucking watchtower, basically with the rest of the crew, that entire storyline just kind of goes out the wayside.
I don't think she should have joined the Ultimates yet.
I think they should. I think
she should have stayed on the island, and they should have earned it. That's where I thought it was going.
Yeah.
Was that she's like, no, I'm not interested. I just want to help my people, and I thought that was really good character work to like. That's a superhero trope to be like, all right, they did this bad thing to you, and we're gonna show them what for. And she's like, I don't want to show them what for. Like I do, but I primarily want like my people to live better lives and for our land to grow back. And I'm not really interested in the revenge until that happens. And then she is.
Yeah. and then.
And she is.
And then she is. Issue 2, to go back to that, I like, because once again, talking about the biting commentary on world events and whatnot, Midas, quote unquote, being in charge of the White House and whatever, and like Captain America storming in, talking about saving America, etc., etc. The differing ideals.
Goes, bro, what are you talking about?
Yeah. The different ideals, how capital is the most important thing, yada yada, Midas is capitalistic, obsessed with America.
It is by no means subtle.
No.
It is very, very direct in what it's trying to say. But yet I also find it incredibly effective because of essentially Midas exists to tear apart everything that Captain America believes in, which I think is, especially in our current day and age, necessary for Captain America.
Yes.
For someone to go like, is that really America's ideals? Is America really about freedom? Is America really about free will and working hard and all of that stuff and being kind to your neighbor and all of these values that we like to ascribe to America, when in real life, it's a lot more complicated than that. There's issues of slavery, there's issues of fascism and oligarchy during different eras of industrialization.
Yep.
You know, genocides, like unethical, like stuff in war. And that Midas argues, I think that America is all about this, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
And throughout this, we also see...
I think that that's human nature. I think that that's how every nation is throughout all of human history, and I'm okay with us being one of the top dogs.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the most interesting way to tackle it, because of him going, no, and I think America is about this, and not from a character being like, as a criticism of him being like, because that's what some people will say when you argue about America's history is, oh, well, it's human nature. Okay, does that make it okay?
Yeah, does that make it right? And it doesn't. And Captain America has, throughout the entire issue, this, like, time chamber that he's, like, watching all of America's, like, world events go on through, and that's where we see, like, the mutant, you know, like, civil rights stuff.
It had Sunspot in it.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah.
We'll get to that again.
And then also, like, Punisher stuff in the 70s or whatever, and then like a Red Skull
uprising.
Yeah, and then the Red Skull uprising based off of the Punisher.
Which shows to me that the maker didn't have as much control as he was leading on.
Yeah,
and it also reveals that he hasn't been around nearly as long as I thought.
Yeah,
he's been around since 1963.
Yeah, he hopped in at the starting point of like the Marvel universe, not the start of like the universe as a whole, but kind of playing it from what he understands onward.
Yeah, like kind of when the universe started to be more than just Fantastic Four, and we used to make Captain America.
Exactly. And then, I mean...
And he just wants to save America, and he's disgusted with what he's seen. Like, again, he's seen all of these events. He's absolutely horrified at what has happened, and knows that Midas, some level, is correct. But at the same point, he still wants to save America and save that idealism, and then quite literally saves America Chavez.
Yeah.
And that no matter what, there's also a very powerful reading of that issue of exploitation of immigrants and, you know,
where
like
this time
Mexican,
displaced
brown people, like minorities.
This time displaced Latino
that she
powers the entire eastern seacoast.
to power the United States, pretty much.
Yeah.
In a way that very similar, the United States has been powered by like underprivileged, underpaid minority groups. And it's always been that way to some degree, either through slavery or by like, I'd say that our current equivalent of that is illegal immigration and underpaying illegal immigrants.
Yeah. And
a lot of the scummy advantage taking that happens with illegal immigrants in our like current era, and like Captain America saying that is wrong and that it's not okay, and that's the ultimate, I guess, kind of bow on top of the message of what America has been is not okay. Even if it is human nature, it's not okay. And even if there's consequences to the matter, they say like, yeah, you take America out of there will be consequences. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's not okay to continue going on and exploiting people just because it's convenient.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that makes Ultimates, I think, maybe my favorite or second favorite title within the line, just because of the things that it's willing to say and how far it's willing to take it in a lot of circumstances. What was issue 5?
I don't remember. And this, in general, is this one deals very heavily with the deep state idea. Yeah. And which is a very current fear. Now, I'm going to make a take.
Go ahead.
The original Ultimate Universe gets hated on and gets totally shat on by a lot of people. Do you agree?
I agree.
And it's very of its times political, people say.
Yeah.
This is so of its time political. We're just in the current time.
Yeah.
This is very of its time. The deep state, no matter what side you're on politically, you probably believe in the deep state.
Yeah.
That's one of the few things that unites the American people together, is most Americans believe in the deep state. Myself, I'm going to be honest, myself included.
Yeah.
I think that, I feel like, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, the government's scummy. Every couple years, the CIA goes, or the FBI, like, you know that unethical conspiracy theory that you heard? Yeah, it happened in real life, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look at like stuff like Project like MK Ultra, where they're doing like acid experiments on people and whatnot, and they come out like decades
hypnotize our own citizens,
trying to like make psychics and shit, and then like decades later they go, yeah, that was real.
And I think that even so, we are tackling a Trumpist America.
Yeah.
In modern Ultimates, where in original Ultimates we were tackling a post 9/11 America.
Yeah. And
I think a lot of people's issues with the Ultimates is not being able to read what Mark Millar was saying about post 9/11 America, and that it wasn't a good thing, and that there are edgy choices that are made for the sake of edginess, but a lot of stuff in there is there for political reasons. And I think a lot of people misread it as a right-leaning book when I don't think it is at all. The message isn't that government superheroes is good. That's very much the point.
Yeah.
Of Ultimates is that it's a bad idea.
It's a very bad idea. I mean, looking for the destruction of the Hulk, and then like how all these superpowered people act, and yada. Like,
and I say that the Ultimates, Volume 2, it's not Volume 2. This is Volume 3 technically, because there was a 616 Ultimates.
Yeah.
Carries on that spirit of the original Ultimates very well.
Yeah.
And it's my favorite part about the book. I agree, but I also think that sometimes when they don't have shit to say, this book can be a little boring.
It can be a little dull. Yeah. Like, on the issues that I really clung onto the words of, like, what characters were saying, I felt very engaged, and other issues I kind of, like, buzzed through. That happened a lot with Black Panther as well. But Ultimates has much higher highs, and when it is mid, it's, like, it's not bad. You know, exactly.
It's just, like, forgettable.
Yeah.
Like, there's an issue, like, where, like...
Oh, the Hawkeye issue.
Yeah, the Hawkeye issue's just okay. I also, like, am not sold on this character yet because they haven't done too much. I think in the issue they were good, but again, with, like, half of the roster of this team, they have since been pretty much benched.
Yeah.
Except for group shots.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the time we're focusing on either Reed, Tony, or maybe Cap, you know?
Who I think are all interesting characters. Now, do you want to talk about Reed and Tony?
I think so.
Because I think they're probably the most important and interesting and integral characters to this universe.
Another just kind of lore thing, within the Guardians issue, America Chavez was revealed to be from the Guardians of the Galaxy, which is, in this universe, treated like Legion of Superheroes, or like Nova Corps in a way.
Yeah, Legion of Superheroes is closer, but for Marvel, it's kind of like the Nova Corps. So it's for all intents and purposes, Legions of Superheroes.
Yeah, so they're time traveling. They got displaced when Maker did his shit, and then now they came back for America, and America's like, now I'm gonna stay on the Ultimates and help save this time. Pretty simple stuff.
But they also reveal that this is cringe. One brings shadow, one brings light. Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers. Reed and Tony, one of them is going to be integral to saving this world, and one of them is gonna totally heel turn and be a villain.
Yeah, one of them's totally gonna fuck it all up.
And as much as they want you to believe it's Reed, it's totally Tony, bro. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely Tony. I don't think Kang is Howard. I don't think Kang is Reed. Yeah. I think Kang is Tony Stark.
Kang is definitely Tony Stark. And I think that's the kind of lead up that we're feeling here. And also, I mean, the thing is their armor designs are the exact same, and like they both have
just a palette swap.
Yeah, just a palette swap.
Green Goblin his suit.
Yeah, literally. And like, a Mortis engine, whatever. But I really do like the idea of Reed kind of really having this struggle, this intense sorrow to him, and then like really pulling it all together towards the end and being the hero that the world needs him to be.
This guy is really dooming out.
He's dooming hard.
Like he's Reed Richards, but like this isn't just like an aesthetic change. Like, bro is taking up some traits. Of Victor Von Doom.
He is obsessive. He is just like super into his work. And he's
a little bit more like screw the ends justify the means.
Yep. He's like
he's a lot colder. He's very bitter, very antisocial. Is definitely starting to get an ego.
Yep.
I'm getting a phone call. Sorry. Hello?
So yeah. Dr. Doom. Or sorry, just Doom. Great character. They're doing great stuff with Reed in this book. Yeah.
I'm so sorry, but I gotta pick up my brother from work. Do you want to pause it and then come back? I'll literally be 10 minutes. He works so close to my house.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll probably be 15 minutes.
I will pause it here.
All
right. We are back in 3, 2. Oh, hold on. Okay. Go.
But yeah, I feel like they're definitely trying to red herring us with Reed Richards, and kind of point towards him, but I don't think it's gonna be him.
So you think it's more straightforward than what they're leading on? You know, it's gonna be because it's pretty obviously teed up to be either Tony or Howard within Ultimate Invasion. So you think it's
so
just
here's
gonna
the
be Tony?
thing: there are 2 hints at who it could be. Hint 1, it could be Howard or Tony. Hint 2, it could be Reed or Tony. What name
there's the
showed
overlap.
up in both of those?
Yeah,
What name showed up in both of those?
Yeah, Tony.
So I'm gonna be honest. Do you want to hear my full send opinion on what I think is gonna happen next?
Sure.
My Hail Mary.
Sure.
So I think again Kang is Iron Lad, and I think when the second year is over and he just is the Maker. When the Maker gets out, I think they're gonna lose, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do once they beat the Maker.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It all feels like it's building to like, you know, an Infinity War Endgame event.
Yeah.
And the stakes realistically don't get much higher.
No.
And so I feel like we kind of can't end this imprint 2 years in. I have a feeling that they're gonna lose. I have a feeling that Tony Stark is going to be a little upset about that. And that he's going to become Kang as a result of that.
I could see, yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. Because I don't see any of those weird white visions and like,
I also
Ultimates
think
clones happening anytime soon.
I think the Ultimates clones is a last-ditch effort of him trying to salvage the Ultimates project after failure.
Yeah.
And that's why they're all like bastardized version clones of the team that he made.
Yeah.
I think that's why. And while I think that they're leading us to think that it's Reed because of how, like, obviously he's egotistical and he's unethical, I don't feel like it's pointing to that as far as, like, what the clues are actually saying, like, logistically. And again, from a meta sense, I don't see what they do once the Maker's defeated.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the diverging point of the Absolute Universe and for DC and Marvel's Ultimate Universe right now is that the Ultimate Universe feels like it has so much more of a finite point that it's all directed towards, while the Absolute Universe feels like it could be an ongoing forever because there's a whole new world to just kind of exist and play in. You know?
I'm a little scared that, like, you know, like, I don't know if this was built with longevity in mind as much as the original. Well, the original Ultimate Universe, again, lasted for 15 years because of they started off as just a universe.
Yeah.
They started off as a universe that just happened to exist. Is it 1660 or 1606?
Which one? For
original Ultimate.
1610.
1610.
Yeah.
Okay, 1610. It's just a universe.
Yeah.
Nothing made it that way. It just was. And they're just like, yeah, this is a universe that plays a little bit more to the taste of the 2000s.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Absolute Universe. It was created by Darkseid, but he doesn't really have a presence yet.
Yeah.
And all of the books are a little more isolated from each other, and they're not building towards the same point. In a way where, like, once the Maker's out of the way, what do we do?
Like, because it seems like
you can't. Galactus isn't bigger than this.
Yeah.
Like, the Infinity Gauntlet isn't bigger than this. Like, you have to make the power creep on this will be devastating.
Yeah. And I think the real thing here too is like with Ultimate Wolverine, with kind of them teeing him up as like Winter Soldier, and eventually we'll go after the Rasputins with all the weird mutant bullshit there, with Nightcrawler and Mystique showing up. Wild.
Yeah, a book that seems to exist because of they went, oh, Peach Momoko's just like so not doing normal X-Men that we have to make a real X-Men book, quote unquote.
I guess so, right? But like
that's what it feels like to me, and I don't think that's bad.
No.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, and I think with that, like, the only kind of logical solution is like you take out each of the lieutenants in charge and then you fight the Maker, but then when the Maker comes out, like, what will he have, and then that leads into maybe they will lose, and then there'll be that whole second phase.
It will either be an Infinity War type thing where they like big lose in an event, or it will be the new status quo is the war against the Maker. But either way, I'm like not sure what happens after that, but I have a feeling that they're going to lose and they're not going to win after the 2 years.
Yeah.
Because realistically, that means that this imprint ends in a year from now. And to me, that doesn't make a lot of business sense.
I doubt it, yeah. And I think
also... And I also doubt that they didn't think about that. Like, there's no way that they didn't think about that.
And I think now, really thinking on it, unless they really try to push the fact that, like, there's such a big initial arc and then now it goes really far back down to like a down-to-earth scale. Now how do you repopulate and refill this world, and what villains arise in the wake of the Maker? Like, I guess you could do that and go on going after that, but like it feels so much less charged and direct, this
less current, like there's a point where I feel like
there's a point right now.
Both the advantage and the weakness of the current Ultimate Verse is that it's building to something. Yeah. Now, is it going to be like Endgame where it's great, and then everything after no one gives a shit about? Maybe.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to happen before I said stuff?
I was thinking along those lines. I'm like, what are they really going to do after the Maker comes back? Like, are they going to pivot to Kang being the big bad, and then now Tony's our villain throughout like time and space and shit? But then that gets way too big, way too convoluted, and kind of ruins the whole point of this Ultimate Universe. So, and
I will also make the point along those lines too. I think it's kind of a little bit strange of a choice for a universe. An alternate universe imprint where I think a lot of this stuff is based on continuity that already exists, which is a strange choice.
Yeah.
But I still like it.
I still like it a lot. I think overall, the Ultimate Universe has proven to be mostly...
Success?
Yeah, I mean, it's been successful. It's been mostly effective with its titles, and nothing is perfect.
Like, dude, like when I say this shit, mainline Marvel isn't doing any better. It's, as a matter of fact, mainline
let's
probably doing worse.
Let's be clear here, folks. Let's be clear here, folks. Ultimate Universe right now is better than the mainline Marvel Universe.
I think that this initiative of both big companies to do an alternate universe take is like the best thing that they've done in forever.
Yeah. Now, there can definitely still be problems within those, and of course we're going to critique those, but overall, I'm really enjoying what Ultimate Universe has brought us.
And at the end of the day, I don't know what's coming next. I could totally be wrong.
Yeah, we could be wrong.
I'm excited to see what happens next. And I'll be honest, there are some things that I kind of like about the idea of like, what does a post-Maker world look like? But also, again, like, that kind of seems like we've kind of set this universe up to feel like it needs to build to something, and I kind of don't, again, with reflection of how the MCU went once we went post-Endgame, and then they kind of had to figure it out, it didn't go great. It's still not going great, from what we can tell.
Yeah.
They're in, Marvel Studios is in dire positioning as far as, like, in the superhero market right now. They're starting to get, a little less invincible. They're vincible now.
Yeah, they are vincible.
Very vincible.
Quite vincible.
Ultimate 1 year in happens, by the way. Nick Fury is a dick, but he feels bad about it and tries to kill the council, and it doesn't work. He does it every year, and he tries to suicide kill them and fails every year, and then they go, lol, see you next year.
Yeah.
It's a fun world building.
Yeah, it's neat.
It shows how the Maker did a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, obviously there's some characters that he killed the fucking power pack, by the way.
Yeah. It's so evil.
He fucking shot the power pack.
Just bang bang.
Killed,
oh my God.
The Howling Commandos too.
Oh, I don't think we ever got to our Wolverine theory.
Oh, well,
I mean, we're wrapping up.
I don't know if I have it. I don't know if there's a theory.
just
I don't
the
have a theory.
inconsistencies between Wolverine's
Yeah,
appearance
inconsistencies.
across the board.
Mutants.
Because
And
in the
lore of
1
this
year,
world
hold
is
on.
so inconsistent.
In the 1 year in special, you see there's a thing in the Maker's like trophy room. There's an adamantium skeleton in there.
And in
Did he
Ultimate X-Men, we see this guy who looks like Wolverine, and then we get Ultimate Wolverine, and not one of these guys is the same character.
Yeah.
And the cope is the guy in the X-Men book was Daken, Wolverine's Japanese son, and the skeleton was some other chode.
I guess so.
And it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this one deals with, okay, this one's really simple. We're one issue in. Wolverine is Weapon X. It's in the Eurasian territories. Magic, Colossus, and also technically Omega Red,
Yeah.
who does nothing.
Wolverine's part of like a Northern Union like rebellion force that got captured and then became Weapon
Made
X.
up of mostly mutants, from what I can tell.
Yeah,
So it turns
Nightcrawler,
out that there's
Mystique.
mutants Hinokuri and mutants Eurasian territories, and
Then some
don't
mutants
really match
in
that much.
Northern Union as well because they were part
Yeah.
of that rebellion group.
And there's mutants in the flashbacks, and all the new mutants were there. But also, Robert DaCosta shows up as a child in 1 year in, and so there's a couple things that definitely this is a raw universe, and there's a couple inconsistencies that fly through, and a lot of them have to do with mutants.
So yeah, that kind of ties into our
Mutant continuity
overall.
is mad unclear. We still don't know what
Yeah.
mutants are. We don't even know if the Ultimate X-Men mutants and the Ultimate Wolverine mutants are the same damn type of mutant.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Overall,
Ultimate
guys.
Wolverine feels really weird.
Yeah.
And I like it okay.
Yeah. Art was really good.
It was sad that they killed Nightcrawler.
Really?
This universe is dead to me now.
Yeah.
Because he's my goat, but
The goat.
effective.
Very.
And yeah, that's it. Pretty much, though, to me, it feels like a book that exists because of people complained that Ultimate X-Men wasn't X-Men enough, and they said, fine, here's a Wolverine book, you pieces of shit.
Yeah. That's so true.
And it's okay. It's okay. It's one issue in. I can't say shit. It was a pretty good first issue.
Yeah, there's a lot of
But
stabbing.
it sure is a Wolverine book.
Yeah. So, hey.
So,
That's-
do you think that this Ultimate Universe is like a definite success?
I think right now it's definite success. I think there's enough here for people to sink their teeth into, and enough that's varied out from the regular 616 and 1610 universes that it feels fresh, it feels new, it feels fun. It might not be the most like new reader friendly, it's definitely dense trying to get into it, but even if you just hop on with like Ultimate Spider-Man, like you kind of get the gist.
They say on the trades, they say the status quo that matters on the blurb.
Yeah, they say the blurb at the front and you're good. Yeah.
Skip Ultimate Invasion if you've never read this shit before, or at least issue 1, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Ultimate Invasion's a little rough. As someone who's read the entirety of the Ultimate Universe and like a lot of stuff with the Maker just in general.
Yeah.
That shit was dense for me.
Yeah,
that shit made me go.
A lot of lore dropping. Yeah.
The whole time, but that's okay. I think that it's a really great initiative. I think that they're taking a lot of great creative swings. A lot of them are hits. Yeah. Most of the misses are minor, but we have to see how it continues to go because there is a landing coming and we have to stick it.
I think so entirely, and I think there's definitely the few books that continue to prove that they have still yet untapped potential, and some that are kind of like going to wade in the waters on the way there. Like, I don't know how Black Panther's gonna go. That one I'm kind of curious on how they're gonna.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little tapped out on Black Panther.
No, yeah. I mean, hey, I only read up to issue 7. I tapped out while they were coming out.
I tapped out in the middle of making this video.
Yeah. That's all that I had available to me.
I'm gonna get Spider-Man probably as it comes out, maybe Ultimates. I think X-Men and Black Panther, I'm gonna wait for trades. I like X-Men a lot, but I'm not, like, obsessed with it.
I would say, yeah, it's like, for me, it's Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimates, X-Men, Black Panther.
Mostly for me, Ultimates I have to get monthly because of, pardon me, the status quo matters in this universe, and that's where most of the actual meat is for the ongoing narrative, and so, I gotta.
Yeah.
Now, this might be a moot question to ask you, but I think I want to ask it anyway. How do you think it compares both to the quality and or legacy of the original Ultimate Universe? Do you think this is a worthy successor to the original Ultimate Universe, which, despite your opinions, I would say was a very successful initiative. You don't go 15 years without doing something right.
That's true. That's true.
Listen, it made it pretty damn far.
I'd say the new Ultimate Universe and the old
one
are
gonna get asked this.
Are very different things. There's obviously your through lines, but I feel like that's an odd question because they're kind of differently charged, you know, like...
I disagree.
Really?
I'm not gonna lie. I think that this very much carries on the spirit of the original Ultimate Universe of being a creative playground for new stories and takes on characters.
Yeah.
I think it's very politically charged in the same way the original one was. I think mostly the difference comes in just how we tell our stories and the tropes of our eras is different. But I think this new Ultimate Universe actually carries, I think, a lot of the bones and I think the spirit of the original.
That's true, because at the end of the day...
I don't think it carries its continuity, but I think it carries its spirit.
Yeah, I think its spirit at the end of the day, is the opportunity to tell new stories within the time frame that we're in.
And to take huge swings.
And just take huge...
Sometimes they miss.
Yeah. And hey, you know, look at the old Ultimate Universe, you know, a lot of big swings.
There was so many big swings, and that's what a lot of people's problems with it is. I think that a lot of these universes have a lot more in common than people are giving them credit for. I think that the Ultimate Universe we have now is very much just an updated version of what we had then. That was dealing back then with, I'd say, post 9/11 America, the George H.W. Bush era presidency.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, and more like stuff like, you know, the Patriot Act, I think is very important to that era, and government conspiracy in the lens of like cover-ups of that time, where as opposed to now, where we're very much dealing with the idea of like
not being able to trust.
The identity of America is falling apart.
Yeah.
Our trust in our leaders is falling apart, and the deep state is a very big thing. I think it's very much carrying the cynical, critical nature, and I think the only difference between the verses is, and I do think this is why it's being better received, is that I think that at the end of the day, the point of the original Ultimate Universe is that your heroes aren't perfect.
Yeah.
And in this universe, I think
it's
it
much more
allows them to be a little bit more that this is a terrible world, but these are great people here to fix it, where the original Ultimate Universe was a little bit more like...
Yeah, and I think that's...
These are some characters with more rough edges.
Yeah, because I think that's what I was thinking of when thinking about this Ultimate Universe compared to 616, is that this one deals so much more with the legacy of, like, who these great heroes are, compared to what you said. And even what the Absolute Universe does, where it's like, your heroes aren't perfect, they're rough around the edges, and they're put through some really tough trials, you know? But even then, the Absolute Universe has that little hopeful tinge to it, more so than Ultimate U did. Ultimate U, like you said,
is much was incredibly
grounded.
Cynical.
Yeah.
But I would also argue, number one, for the time, people were incredibly cynical. Yeah. And I would argue, in a lot of ways, the current Ultimate Universe is very cynical, but with the one twist being that someone will try and fix it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where I'd say more of the original Ultimate Universe made a statement of, your heroes aren't perfect, they never will be perfect, but they're still heroes. But I still think that it carries on the legacy of creative takes on characters.
Yeah.
Not being beholden to continuity whatsoever, taking huge swings, and very much critically tackling society in our current day.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it feels like something new, something fresh, and it has a lot of good to say, a lot of thought-provoking things to say.
Mm-hmm. I love it, and we didn't mention it before, I don't think, but like even with like Ultimate X-Men, it's like the idea of like, well, what would the mutant crisis look like in Japan instead of America, which is very culturally different.
Yeah.
Which is a thing we haven't gotten before. Ultimate Spider-Man, what if this guy got powers way later than he did? How does that change his life? Like, I feel like this is very much in the spirit of it, but it's just our tastes have changed a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'll also argue that in the 2000s, those takes on the characters were more well received than they are now, as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think when Ultimate Spider-Man came out, I was like, not even sperm yet.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
That's all right.
I quite like this new Ultimate Universe. I'm curious to see how it turns out. I don't think it's perfect, but I don't think anything necessarily has to be.
Yeah. Hey, if you like good alternate universe takes on stories, if you like Marvel Universe, if you want to see Spider-Man and MJ married with kids, check out the Ultimate Universe. All the new stuff is really cool takes on characters, and I honestly do think if you're a big manga reader and like X-Men as well, Ultimate X-Men's a great read for you. Just outside of it being Ultimate Universe,
you just have to get ready for it to be absolutely nothing like what you think X-Men is in your head.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be just absolutely willing to take in this new version of the characters.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think it's very much a breath of fresh air. I think it was necessary for the industry to start doing this.
Yeah, I mean,
I also have to give this one a little bit more credit because of, absolute rip this off. Like, not to be a hater, because I like this more than Marvel generally.
Oh. Oh no, he's dying.
Alright, is it normal now?
It's normal now.
Okay.
You like DC more than Marvel?
Just in general, but I think that Marvel's beaten them to this twice now.
Yeah.
Because Ultimate Universe begot New 52, and now Ultimate Universe 2 begets Absolute Universe.
Yeah. And hey.
So thank you, Marvel.
Yeah, thanks, Marvel.
Because this is the best thing both of you guys have done is doing this.
Yeah.
IMO.
Yeah, and it's doing really well numbers-wise. I mean, financially, Ultimate Spider-Man
Except for Black
number
Panther.
1. Yeah. Ultimate Spider-Man number 1 and Absolute Batman number 1 were like on the top 5 best-selling books of the year. And Absolute Batman came out like towards the end of the year.
I think that these initiatives deserve their success. I think that it's great for this industry to have some like new creative takes on these characters because of so bored of some of these characters in main continuity.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I'm so tired of mainline continuity Batman. I'm so tired of mainline continuity Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I've never really loved Avengers in main continuity.
Yeah.
Ultimates I've never really been able to finish a Wonder Woman book. Yeah, that's my hottest take. Is I don't like Avengers, but I do like Ultimates.
Yeah.
Both versions.
Yeah.
Not counting Ultimates 3 and Ultimatum. I like Ultimates 2 more than most Avengers books, but that's a take too hot for the timeline. That's a take too hot for the timeline.
Yeah.
Ultimates 2 clears most Avengers books.
Yeah. Oh my god. Well, hey. Ultimate Universe.
What y'all know about Galactus trilogy, huh? What y'all know about it?
What do you know?
Nothing, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet you. What do you know about the Galactus trilogy?
Nothing.
What if I told you it was so heat and it's actually my preferred Galactus version?
What, Galactus? The
What if I told you that I think, not from when you write it down on paper perspective, but when you read it, what if I told you that shit was heat, bro?
Well, we'll have to talk about that another time.
We'll have to talk about it another time, but not soon. Unfortunately, that shit went for 15 years. Give us a minute.
Yeah, give us some time.
Next up, Absolute Batman, Absolute Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman. We love you guys very much. Thank you so much for watching.
Yes.
If you want to go to Shaman's house just to wait for them to get reconstituted, they live at blank, 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 blank. I don't know their address.
Just go there.
I just know. Just go there.
Just sends them out as they reconstitute in a giant test tube
in the
lab chamber.
Tony Stark chamber.
Yeah, the Tony Stark chamber, his iron lung.
Bro got whooped by the Hulk too hard.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.